Hello, my name is Anniken and welcome to today's tutorial. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I try and post videos every single week. It's a mixture of tutorials, reviews of various yarn products and yarns, various knitting products and yarns I should say, and I also post regular podcast episodes. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about left-leaning decreases. So some decreases lean to the right and some lean to the left. Now, to decreases that lean to the right are mainly knit two together. Decreases that lean to the left, there is a bit more choice. So I'm going to talk about two particular left-leaning decreases and then one variation of a very popular left-leaning decrease. So this is something I knitted earlier. On this first part, I've done an SSK. On the second section, I've done a modification of the SSK. And on the final section, I've done a slip-on, nip-on, pass, slip, stitch over, which is probably the most common decrease. And it may be difficult to see here, but if you knit a swatch yourself, trying out these different decreases, then it will be easier to see it. But on the SSK, you get a fairly smooth line where the decreases are. So I've used a stitch pattern. I haven't typed it up, so it's just in my notebook. But there's a diagonal row yarn overs, then there's one stitch, and then there's a diagonal row of SSK. So it's a very basic stitch pattern. So let's look at the slip-on, nip-on, pass, slip, stitch over first, which is over here. I don't really like the slip-on, nip-on, pass, slip, stitch over. The bottom bit doesn't look very good because I made a mistake and I didn't notice it till it was too late. But I don't really like slip-on, nip-on, pass, slip, stitch over. I think it's the one that looks the worst out of the left-leaning decreases. I've always done the regular SSK, but it still looks a little bit uneven. You don't get quite the even look that you get with the knit two together, which leans to the right. Recently I saw a video which was a modified SSK, which I have tried before and I didn't think it made that much of a difference, but now I've learned a different way of doing it. I really like it because it means I can do the SSK in one movement. So let me show you what I mean. So I've cast on for a second swatch. So I'm going to slip the first one purlwise with the yarn in front. Now, I knit continental style, but this is exactly the same if you knit English style, and I will show you both. If you knit Eastern style or combination style, then it might be slightly different. So if you knit where the yarn is sitting twisted on your needle, so the leading leg's at the back, as opposed to the leading leg being at the front, which is common for continental and English style knitting. If your stitch sits so that the leading leg is at the back, so you have to knit into the back of the stitch rather than the front, then this will be slightly different. But I'm talking for what applies to most continental and English style knitters. So I've knitted two, I'm going to knit three, and then I'm going to do a yarn over. If you do it English style, you do yarn over, knit one, and then I'm going to do an SSK. So I'll show it continental style first. So an SSK, you slip one stitch knitwise, and then you slip a second stitch knitwise, and that twists both those two stitches. So those two stitches are twisted individually. When you slip a stitch knitwise, you're twisting it. So now it's sitting with the leading leg at the back of the right hand needle. And then you put your left needle into the front of those two stitches from the left, so that your needles cross over each other, and then you knit them together. So if you do that English style, you slip it knitwise, slip the second stitch knitwise, which twists them, put your left needle into the front of those two stitches, and then you knit them together. Okay, so that's an SSK. An SSK, a modified SSK, you slip the first, you slip the first stitch knitwise, and then you slip the second stitch purlwise, and then you put your left needle into the front of those two stitches and knit them together. So let's look at that again. So you slip the first stitch knitwise, second stitch purlwise. Now when you put your needle in to slip it purlwise, you put your needle into the front of that stitch to slip it across. If you just leave your left hand needle there, so your left hand needle is now at the back, right hand needle is at the front. So if I leave that left hand needle there and just slide it into the first stitch like that, I can knit them together without taking my needle out. So let me do that again. So normally when you do this, you would do slip on knitwise, slip on purlwise, then put your left needle in and then knit them together. So you can do that without taking your needle out and back in again, basically. So slip on knitwise, slip the second one purlwise. So I put my needle into the back now, back of that stitch. It doesn't really matter whether you do it into the front and the back, but it's probably easier to put it into the back. Now the left needle is at the front of that stitch. Instead of taking that needle out, I just dip down and I slide it into the first slipped stitch like that. And then I can knit them together. So let's do that again. Hang on. So slip on knitwise. When I go to slip it purlwise, if I put my needle into the back of that stitch, so I'm going to slip it purlwise. Now when I slip a stitch purlwise, I'm not twisting it. Doesn't matter whether you put your needle into the front or the back of the stitch, by the way. When I slip it purlwise, I'm not twisting it. So it's sitting the same way that it was on that needle. So when I put my needle into slip it purlwise, if I put it into the back, so my left needle is at the front, then I can just slide the left needle down and into that stitch, that first slip stitch, and knit them together. And it makes it much easier. I've been doing that for a few weeks now, maybe even a couple of months, and it does speed things up a lot when it comes to doing the SSK. So let's carry on. Let's look at the slip on, nip on, pass slip stitch over. Okay, so here I come to slip on. So again, I slip it knitwise, knit one, and then I pass the slip stitch over. So it's just slip on, knit one, grab that slip stitch and lift it over. That's probably the stitch that most people are familiar with. So I'm just going to quickly do the wrong side row and then we'll go through those three again. Now what I recommend is that you try all three and you decide which one you think looks best. So just find a stitch pattern that has several left-leaning decreases. You can tell which one's the best when you have a stitch pattern that kind of where you have a diagonal line of decreases. So the decreases are in subsequent squares. So that one is in that square, and then on the next row is in the left square to the left, and then on the next row is in the next square to the left. That does make it easier to tell if you like the look of it or not. Apparently I can't talk and knit at the same time. So let me just purl to the beginning of the row. I do Norwegian purl, by the way. Okay. So let's try that again. So I'm going to slip the first one purlwise with yarn in front, knit one, and then I got to knit two, yarn over, knit one, and then I'm going to do a plain SSK. So slip on knitwise, put your left needle into the front of those two stitches from the left and knit them together, or if you're knitting English style, knit them together. So let's do that again. So when you undo an SSK, by the way, you have to remember to untwist them, unless you're going to do another SSK in exactly the same place. Now, I get a question a lot, isn't knit two together through the back loop the same as SSK? And it's not. When you knit two stitches together through the back loop, which is also left-leaning decrease, although it's not a very popular one because it doesn't look very good, you just have the stitches sitting on your left-hand needle, and then you just put your needle into the back of those two stitches and knit them together. And it's not the same as the SSK, because with the SSK you twist the stitch first. So when you slip it knitwise, you twist it, slip the next one knitwise, twist it. Then when you put your left needle into the front of those two stitches from the left, it is the same as putting a needle through the back loop, but you've twisted the stitches first. So it's not the same as knit two together through the back loop because you've twisted the stitches first. knit those 2 together. Then I'm going to knit 3. So now let's do a yarn over and knit 1. Now let's look at the modified version. So I'm going to slip on knitwise, and then I'm going to slip the next one purlwise, but instead of taking my left needle out, so I slip it properly onto the right hand needle, I'm keeping both needle in at the same time. So I put my right needle into the back of that stitch, so my left needle's at the front. Then I'm just going to slide that left needle down and put it into that slip stitch and then knit them together. Or if you knit continental style, not continental style, if you knit English style, knit them together. Okay, let's do that again. So hang on, there we go. So slip on knitwise, I'm twisting the first one, I'm not twisting the second one. So if I put my needle into the front of the next one, which normally if I was just going to slip it across, I tend to put my needle into the front because I'm used to doing that. If I put my needle into the front and then I want to get that needle into that stitch as well, it's a little bit difficult. So what I can do is just slide it under that needle while still leaving it in the stitch and then put it into that stitch. But it is easier when I go to slip it if I put my right needle through the back of that loop. But it doesn't really matter which way you do. But if I put it through the back, I can just take that left needle, dip it down into the slip stitch and then knit them together. And then we'll do the last one as well, the slip on, knit on, pass slip stitch over. So slip on, knit on, pass the slip stitch over. So those are 2 left leaning decreases plus the variation of 1. So the first time I heard about the variation of the SSK, I tried it. And I didn't really think it made much difference, so I didn't use it. I went back to the standard SSK, and then a couple of months ago I tried it again because I saw somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but I saw somebody doing it without taking their needles. You just do it all in one move, and I thought, oh, that looks good, I can save some time doing that. So that is my standard SSK now, and it does make a difference because with the standard SSK, you are slipping both stitches and you're twisting both stitches. With a modified SSK, which is here, you're twisting the first stitch, so you're slipping the first stitch knitwise, which is twisting it, but you're not twisting the second stitch. So it does look a little bit different. You may not be able to tell a huge amount of difference. I don't think it makes enough of a difference to stop you knitting a pattern, or if you forget and you mix up the 2 different versions of the SSK, you don't have to rip back or anything. It's not that much of a difference, but the main thing for me is that it speeds my knitting up. And I like knitting fast, as you may know if you've followed me for a while. When you knit for a living, it's a good idea to be able to knit fast. So that's today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider subscribing. And if you don't want to miss any future videos, do click the notification bell and you will get a notification each time I upload a new video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.